Next now I'm going to introduce Crystel Rynne, and Crystel is the Chief Operating Officer with HR Locker. And Crystel's role is centered around growth and overseeing the day-to-day operations in HR Locker. And as part of the executive management team, she's in charge of maintaining and driving operational results across all processes and procedures at HR Locker. Welcome very much.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for having me today. I suppose as a representative of the tech sector today, I'm sure you're expecting me to talk a lot about all the latest technologies that you need to implement into your company, all the latest tech buzzwords that you should be adapting, but my perspective might surprise you. I would like to share a personal story with you. My New Year's resolution this year was to really, I suppose, focus on my fitness and health. So I decided to start with 10,000 steps a day. So I went out, bought my fancy new Apple iWatch, and really set up everything to be tracked every single day. And unfortunately, I can't tell you that the Apple iWatch transformed my journey, because after 2 or 3 weeks, surprisingly, after checking every single day, my steps had not increased. So like any sane person would do, I blamed the watch. So I decided to up the ante, decided that I would sign up for Apple Fitness, €9 a month. And of course, I needed the iPad to go with that. So not only did I now have the €600 Apple Watch, the €1,500 iPad, and the Apple subscription, I really thought that everything would really work out. But let me tell you, my stress levels skyrocketed. Every 2 hours, my watch buzzes at me to tell me that I need to take the time to breathe to lower my stress levels. I think I've now convinced myself that I have blood pressure problems because every time my watch beeps at me to say that my blood pressure somehow is increasing. And after all that, my steps still have not increased. And yes, I'm still blaming the watch, and I'm still blaming the iPad. And yes, I'm still paying the €9 a month for the subscription. But let's be honest, the watch, the iPad, and the Apple Fitness subscriptions were merely tools, just facilitators. And unfortunately, the only thing that was going to get me up my steps was myself. Didn't matter about the digital transformation journey that I was going on. Which brings me really to my first key takeaway. Technology is only as good as the strategy driving its use. It is our job to use it effectively. Unfortunately, most technology that we buy, if not all technology that we buy, will not do the work for us. Unfortunately, we've tried, it has not worked. It is our jobs as leaders today to be able to focus on what do we actually want the technology to do? What is the job of the technology? Because just by buying the technology and implementing it isn't actually going to get the job done. Which really focuses on my key takeaway number 2. Technology is just an enabler. It cannot be the driver. The strategy does the heavy lifting. Most of the time, I think companies, when they start a digital transformation journey, they focus on what's the latest technology? What are the key technology buzzwords that I should be implementing into the company? Rather than focusing on, do we want faster horses? Do we want faster cars? What do we actually want to achieve? What are the actual goals that we want here? Do we want to get from A to B, or do we want to completely change the journey? And that can only start with your strategy. It does not start with your technology. In a massively digital world where everything that we do is digitized, how is it possible that companies who implement digital transformation, that 69% of the projects fail? And the key is, the reality is that if you do not have strategy at the center of your digital transformation journey, you will be part of the 69% of digital transformation projects that fail. A couple of years ago, I decided I want to implement a subscription system into our company. Number one, I looked at the best subscription system that was on the market. And I said, that's the one we're going for. We bought it, and I spent a number of months with the team trying to implement it. It just didn't work. I could not get it to work with the processes that we had. And I made the hardest and the best decision was to stop the project, because I was like trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole. I just couldn't get it working. And the truth is, as hard as it is for me, it was for me to admit, it wasn't the technology that was the problem, it was our strategy. We didn't know why we were implementing it. We didn't know how we were going to measure it. We didn't know what we wanted to achieve. We knew we needed technology, but we didn't really understand how it was going to help us at the end of the day. Was it going to make us faster? Was it going to make our customers more happy? What was the actual purpose? And a lot of the time, that's why companies, that's the focus. They focus on the technology, and you might end up with something as effective as hammer to a fish. Now, I've been talking for about 4 or 5 minutes now, and I haven't mentioned ChatGPT or AI. It's about time we brought it into the conversation. If I was to ask most companies, are you currently using AI or ChatGPT? Everybody's like, yeah, we are. We definitely are. We're bringing it in. Every company, every one of our departments are using it. Okay. What are you using it for? What's the purpose? And they're like, oh, we're just trying to stay ahead. That 2030 is coming up soon, 2027. It's coming up in how many hours? It's coming up soon. We know we need to be doing it. Okay. How are you going to measure the success? What's the actual purpose? Why are you using it? So really, I'd like to focus on key takeaway number 4. AI is really awesome, and so is ChatGPT. But before diving into the AI and ChatGPT whirlwind, stop and strategize. Figure out why you're using it. How are you actually going to measure it? Do you need to be using it? Or are you just going down the AI platform just for the sake of it? I promise I had the slide up, Joan and Helen, before you guys were talking about people. But this does bring me into the next section, that digital transformation is as much about people as it is about the technology. Your technology cannot be the driver. It is your people. Managers often come in and they implement a technology, and we forget that the end users are our people. How is it actually affecting their job? What are we expecting them to do? Do they actually understand why we've implemented this technology? Because ultimately, it's the person who's going to be driving the technology, driving the strategy, and actually getting it to your goal. Unfortunately, with most projects, you have to embrace failure. Embracing failure, you need to embrace failure as a stepping stone to innovation. Getting it right the first time is really, really hard. And when you fail, you need to learn from your mistakes, fail fast, and pivot. Because if it's aligned with your strategy, you'll get it in the end. You just need to keep pivoting until you get there, until you get to the end of that journey. And by the way, your journey will never end. You will keep having to pivot. I'm going to steal a quote from Einstein, which I'm hoping is somewhat in the realms of what he said. If I had an hour to solve a problem, 55 minutes, I would take 55 minutes to think about the problem and 5 minutes to think about the solution. With my team, when I'm trying to implement a strategy of some kind of digital transformation or some kind of tech, I get everybody, the key stakeholders in the room, the people who are going to be using it every single day, their managers, customers who will be affected by it. And then first question I ask is, number one, what's the business problem that we're trying to solve? Number two, what can go wrong? Number three, what can go wrong? And we keep looking at what can possibly go wrong, so that we kind of iron it all out and we figure out a way to keep moving forward. And again, I'm really sorry, this next slide I've stolen from you, Joan, as well, is that even when we look from ChatGPT and AI, It's the person who's prompting ChatGPT that's going to get the result. It isn't ChatGPT that's giving us the result all by itself. In order to be successful in digital transformation, you have to always keep the human factor in mind. Your data is really valuable, but it's the human touch that makes the real difference. When companies put in technology, all of a sudden we've got loads of data, which is awesome. It's really cool. And I could spend all day long looking at the data. I'm a bit nerdy like that. But you have to understand, you have to start to think about what's the data actually for. We're going into this world of ever-changing digital technology. Every day there's something new, and we are trying to keep up with what's changing. But we have to remember that the human has to be at the center of everything. We're not in the, I suppose, jobs of trying to replace people with technology. We have to focus on the technology that we're putting in. How is it bettering our lives? How is it bettering the human? Because the human has to be at the center of everything that we do. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, I'd love to take them after lunch. Thank you very much.
Sincere thanks, Crystel, and amazing timekeeping. Well done. I think the other thing that gives us all blood pressure today is the little ding that's going off every time a speaker is coming towards the end of their time. But thanks also for your very honest inputs, and in your own personal life, but also in the relationship in your organization between technology and strategy. And again, back to the human touch and how people play an important role.